Sunday, 28th of June. Good morning. Welcome to the update from the recovery room. Beautiful day here again today. Blue sky, sunshine, as it should be. Trust you well. And I wanted to talk about one of the key drivers of people's motivations, and it's reciprocation. We get what we send out, and we receive what we therefore reflect into the universe. And a couple of examples of this, and there's an interesting story, at least I find it interesting, that about 2.5 hours south of here is a little country called Switzerland, and it's full of mountains and cuckoo clocks and chocolate and bankers and people with guns in their basements as well. Don't mess with Switzerland, they're all armed and ready to go. Anyway, Switzerland. Now, during World War II, Switzerland was a neutral country, and they didn't participate in any combat with any of the countries. So what happened was that when Germany flew their planes over Switzerland, the Swiss Airforce, who had Messerschmitt's Me-109s out of interest, they were sort of tooled up quite well. The Swiss shot them down, and the Germans didn't like that, and they suggested strongly to Switzerland that they stop doing that because there was a perception. I use the word perception, that maybe the banking system was quite useful for Germany and Switzerland, and that relationship was maybe a little bit cozy. But anyway, they said don't shoot our planes down. And what happened was, of course, the Americans, when they had their B-24s going across, they used Switzerland as an air corridor as well, because not going to get shot down by the Germans. So they flew over Switzerland, and of course then the Swiss began to shoot down the Allied planes as well, and they shot down quite a number of them. British planes too. I think the first 2 planes were shot down by the Swiss were actually British bombers. But anyway, I think a few more American planes were shot down. And what happened out of terms of reciprocation, there's a number of cases of this where American bombers, the B-24s, would drop incendiary and high explosive bombs on Switzerland. And I think Zurich and Basel, I think. And there's some instances as well where the Mustang escort planes were strafing Swiss towns, Swiss villages as well. And of course, this was put down to error of, not judgment, but error of navigation. They got lost, or the weather and this sort of thing. And that's what the official history book will suggest. But I would also suggest that maybe if you shoot down a B-24 bomber flying over neutral airspace, then the Americans aren't going to like that very much, and they're going to come back and accidentally drop incendiaries on your town and that sort of thing. Now, that may or may not be true, but certainly there is reciprocation both ways. Interesting side note is that after the war, I think it was October 1945, the Hollywood actor James Stewart, who himself was a decorated and highly regarded B-24 bomber pilot during World War II, he sat adjudicating on a court-martial because where I think a pilot and a navigator had dropped their bombs on, I think it was on Zurich, and they were being court-martialed for it. But surprisingly, the court-martial found that it was navigation aid error or something wrong with the magnet or whatever it was. So they sort of got away with it. But it was definitely reciprocation. And also what happened in terms of the further following reciprocation, in 1949, the Americans had to pay, they did pay reparations to Switzerland for the damage caused, and lives were lost as well, to be fair. So it wasn't just property damage, the lives were lost as well. And they paid the equivalent of 210 million pounds, I think, or dollars to the Swiss. Anyway, so reciprocation, you do something, you're going to get something back. And this works in business as well, for good or for bad. And I see this in how people treat each other, that the danger is that if you do something bad to somebody, obviously they're going to come back at you. So play nice. So we attempt to play nice in our business, and I think most people do. We pay people on time. We very rarely, I don't think we've ever fallen out with anybody. We may have some discussions and disagreements, but we hug and make up, or we socially distance, hug and make up now. But anyway, we play nice. We pay people on time. We don't owe people anything. If there's a dispute or something not right, we fix it. We don't go into headlong battle. So what happens is that reciprocation works with negative situations, but also positive situations. You do something good for somebody, something helpful, something supportive, that remains with them as well, and they repay that back to you. We're hardwired for it. Now, in my experience, what happens, unfortunately, is that negative reciprocation or negative consequences, they tend to amplify over time. People sort of bear grudges, and it can get worse if you're not very careful. Positive reciprocation can tend to evaporate over time because people take it for granted that people are going to be nice and do good things. So you've got to be a little bit careful with it. if you're going to do something nice for people, keep on doing it. One thing you do bad might get remembered, but you do lots of things good. So you've got to build up the stock on the positive side of the balance sheet, if you like. But people do pay back. They really do. And I found in my career, in my life, where people, after years, repay positivity, very rarely negativity. I think I've played nice most of my career, so not a lot of negativity out there. But in terms of positivity, it does come back. So it's a good trick in business, or a good principle, to play by the good rules, be nice, put it out there. It may cost you a little bit of money in the short term, or you may not make as much profit as you could in the short term, but it absolutely works. And that's what comes back. So reciprocation is a key driver, and I think we're hardwired for it. We like to give back what we receive, and that's for good or for bad. So interesting story about interesting story about Switzerland. I hadn't realised that they would shot down the planes. In fact, the planes they shot down that landed, or they escorted them down, were their Messerschmitt planes. The Americans went back over after the war, repaired them all on the airfields, and flew them home again. So they all ended up with a group hug, and that was all good, and a cheque for 200 million, which sort of helped as well. But anyway, there's a story of the Swiss Messerschmitt-equipped Air Force shooting out of the sky some German bombers as well, but also Allied British and American bombers. And, of course, James Stewart. So there's my thought for the day for you. Reciprocation, it works really well. Use it in a positive way. Be careful of it in a negative way. Both come back at you. Negative amplifies, but positive can evaporate. So you've got to keep doing it. Keep being nice, basically, and life is good. Have a great day. I'll give you some updates from the garden later on today. And have a fabulous weekend. I'll catch you on Monday. And take care. Bye for now.